Welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Creatively Enhanced podcast, where we celebrate artists who are pushing boundaries, telling stories through their artwork, and transforming the world one brushstroke at a time. Today, we are thrilled to spotlight a remarkable artist who recently placed third in our Color Play Abstract Art Contest and online exhibition, the incredibly talented Janna Blackburn. Janna has called Maricopa, Arizona, home for the past 11 years, where she shares her life with her beloved family. A proud wife and mother of 3 beautiful daughters, Janna is also stepping into a brand new chapter as she prepares to become a first-time grandmother in May of 2025. Her journey with art began early, nurtured by self-taught skills and the encouragement of teachers who saw her unique gift, and after years of balancing life and career, the transition into an empty nester opened the door for her to reconnect deeply with her passion. Janna's work is rooted in abstract mixed media, and her inspiration flows from the vibrant textures of her day-to-day travels as a fire, life safety account manager. From the structured beauty of cityscapes to the shifting shadows and golden tones of the Arizona desert, her art captures a profound interplay between nature, structure, and emotion. To Janna, art is more than expression. It's a mirror of society, reflecting stories rich in emotion, strength, and resilience. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our featured guest, Janna Blackburn. Janna, welcome and congratulations again on your third place win in the Color Play Abstract Art Contest. For those who may not be familiar with your work yet, can you please share a bit about yourself and your journey as an artist?
I started painting at a very young age, but with children and family, I ended up putting that aside to raise my 3 daughters, and because they required all of my attention in running a household. Youngest daughter began to get ready to transition to move out of the home. I started looking at getting back into my art, and I happened to see a YouTube video with artists doing fluid art, and that really sparked my interest in kind of going down the avenue of abstract art, something that was not my traditional painting with landscapes and floral from my younger years. With the fluid art, that started transitioning, and I did that for a few years. I still do the fluid art. I started exploring traditional abstract art with using different mediums, predominantly acrylics, but I also use modeling paste and oil pastels and charcoals in my artwork, and it's just kind of evolved from there. It's kind of an exploratory session for
And with fluid art, I know you said you saw a YouTube video. What year was that around? Do you remember?
That was about in 2001 is when I ran across a couple videos and I started watching them. Molly was one of the artists. Creative Inspiration was another artist that I followed. And then it just kind of evolved from there. Pieces of Terra was another artist that I followed. I loved the movement and the ethereal feel from those with that the fluid art produces, and it was rather kind of a fun process learning how to do fluid art, because it's kind of a scientific method as well as an artistic method as well, but you have to have your mediums have to be mixed appropriately. It's a lot harder and more complicated than I thought it would be. My first piece was terrible, by the way. It was lumpy and bumpy and just looked horrific. But after trying and mixing, because and then that brought me into making my own paint colors by using pigments and gel mediums, which was kind of a fun process. You have to know the science behind it to understand how to get the right consistencies with your fluid paints so they don't clump up and then because a lot of your paintings will crack because of the different dryings between the different paint textures.
Right. Yes, I started off in a fluid art as well. And this was actually back in 2017, 2018. And like
Oh,
yourself, when you had found it on YouTube, I found mine's on Instagram when Instagram was booming. And I just happened to scroll, like you mentioned, Molly's artistry. I actually saw her video too. And she inspired me to really test out fluid art and acrylic pours. And uh, just like you said, that first painting, I'm like, yeah, that first painting I did was terrible. I don't know what I was doing. It was very watery. And I poured it on a panel, which was like the worst mistake because it turned to like rubber and the panel buckled. And I'm like, oh, that didn't work. So I went out right away, got some more art supplies, and started to study the fluidity of how it's supposed to work. And like you said, it is like a scientific method because there's a whole science to the mixing process, the portions, the measuring, what water to use, what pouring medium to use. Some use glue and dish soap, and others use actual like Liquitex and other brands. But it's all fun to explore and experiment, with the different colors and the different paints and the different mediums, and you find what works for you. Do you have any tips for emerging artists who are getting into fluid paints on what to do, how to get started, some advice to help them overcome those challenges?
yes, start with small canvases in the inexpensive, like I think they're called standard canvases. You can buy them in 10 packs and practice. I practiced so much. I probably had over 100 of those practice canvases trying to master the consistency on the fluid art. They now have quite a few supplies out there. Michaels has really catered to the fluid art movement, and they have products out there that are already pre-mixed, which are pretty simple to use. I have used those, but some of those they're a little watery, but you might have to thicken them up with Floetrol. But your Floetrol and pouring medium from Liquitex are great tools to have. And then your distilled water. You can also use tap water too.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had any degrading in my artwork once I've sealed it with a varnish after they've dried.
Uh-huh.
But those are stick to like the lower end of paint when you first start because it does get the costs start escalating. Fluid
Oh,
art
yes.
fluid art can be very I find it to be more expensive than doing oils or just acrylics. Once you sit down and calculate out all the products that you need and the cost with it, it can be very expensive. But it does become an addiction, I guess you could say, because you're always looking for the next color to use, and the color combinations are just amazing things that you wouldn't imagine that would play well together from your color wheels. They just turn out to be some of the most gorgeous works of art with their color combinations, and it's just about layering your paint in the right way so you don't get mud.
Right. Right. And the thing too with everything that you said with getting the right colors, that's all part of the scientific process as well, because it will create that mud, as we like to call it, and your colors don't look as vibrant or the quality looks really watered down. And
Yeah.
that's something you don't want in your artworks. Have you been able to find that your fluid art gets more attention than when you started painting just abstract paintings on a more contemporary side?
Yes, I've had a lot of people ask why I have moved away from the fluid art and I haven't done a lot of that. And that's because for the first 2 years in my art journey, I studied the different techniques with fluid art. And by happenstance, I had an art piece that I did that was on a very large canvas, and the piece ended up cracking and it started separating. So I got pretty upset with myself with that. And I ended up painting over it. And that's kind of where I transitioned into the more abstract art. And because I painted over that, I used the fluid art to enhance some of the textures that came out from that painting, to enhance some of the features that I started seeing in it, which the colors were in the movement in the piece shifted and changed, and that kind of transitioned me into more of a movement in my art. And that piece actually was selected to be in an on a big screen in at the Art Basel in, I think it was 2022 is when.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. And so I went so then I just started transitioning and exploring all the different techniques, because abstract art there is not, I wouldn't say that there is a right or a wrong way to do abstract art, which is such a beautiful concept. It allows you to explore different ideas without any constraint. It allows you to show emotion of your environment and the things that you see. And it has a sense of emotion to it. It can bring out a sense of longing, a sense of sadness, a sense of joy and happiness. Sometimes some of the bright colors, now that I've been doing it for a while and I look at other abstract artists' works and they use vibrant colors, sometimes I can pick out or sense a sense of sadness in the artwork, even with the vibrant colors, which is quite interesting. There's a musical note in abstract art as well, because there is a cadence and a flow that is, for me, it's very soothing and interesting. And if you're doing a comparison with traditional art, with landscapes and still life, abstract art, it piques my interest. It captures so many emotions. I don't know if with you being an abstract artist, if you feel the same way.
Yes, actually, yeah. Abstract art has been a part of me for many years. I didn't know I was going to be an artist until someone pointed it out to me when I was at a different art exhibit, like a pop-up exhibition before, I think this was like in 2017. But abstract has always caught my attention because of the emotion and what it spoke to me when I would look at like a piece of art from my house, or even if I bought certain products like a journal, I wanted something with abstract on the front of it. And like you said, it does have this message, and you can feel 9 times out of 10 what the artist is putting onto the canvas when they're painting from their heart. And I remember I seen this painting one time and it made me feel like this joy. This is a happy painting. But then I remember I went through a time when I really struggled with my own life issues and challenges, and all my artwork turned black. And people were like, I could feel such sadness and grief in your work. But it was like my top winning pieces that was getting into galleries, but it's because I was expressing my emotion into my artworks. And sometimes it makes me cry when I see those paintings because of what I was going through at the time. But then also it was a sense of therapy and healing for me to be able to just put it out on the canvas. And I've said this in another interview, that it's almost like the canvas it gives us like our superpowers. We can convey what we want people to know and how they should feel. we get to control the emotions of others by what we put on a canvas. Abstract doesn't necessarily give the direct message as still life would, or seeing, a bowl of fruit on a table, which could give you, dark, moody vibes. But, when you create an abstract piece and you title it, you give the interpretation for the viewer to look at it and go, wow, I feel so much this and I see that. And this is happening over in this corner and this is happening over in that area. There's a lot of negative space. There's a lot of positive, So we really get to control the movement
Right.
of emotion, the movement of a canvas as abstract artists. And that's what I love about abstract art is
Right.
to be able to express without putting control or limit to just a type of painting that we do. So
Right.
yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it has a lot of depth to it, and like you were mentioning, it is kind of your therapy. It helps you figure out different areas of your life. And in fact, if you look at my artwork over the course of the year, you can see where there have been areas where it's been troubling.
Mhm.
There's dark, but then there's color, there's bright colors in some of my artwork. But it's because I'm trying to figure out different aspects of my life in directions that I want to take. Where I'm dealing with stressful situations, I tend to go into more of the grays and darker colors in my artwork, but they with touches of bright color, because I'm trying to remind myself there's always light in dark periods of your life.
Yes.
A lot of my artwork has a spiritual context to it as well, trying to convey that there is always light at the end of the tunnel, that there's always a bright, happy ending to any difficulty in life. The hard things are what shape us into the human beings that we're going to be in the future. Without hard things, we can't enjoy the fun times.
Yeah, yes, it's true. In part of my paintings, when I painted that series in a time when all my art was dark, this was in 2020. It was in the midst of, C-19 going crazy. Everyone was
Yeah.
on lockdown here, right? In the same interim, my baby girl, she was 3 at the time, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I just completely grieved. My life was different because things flipped upside down overnight. And I just began to pour my heart into my fluid art, but then my fluid paintings weren't getting accepted into any galleries or any notice or recognition, even though the paintings would sell. But I didn't want it to just be selling. I wanted to get it into public spaces. And so I
Right.
created a painting called Untitled 44, and it talked about the 44 seconds of right after the phone call I received of my daughter's diagnosis.
Mhm.
Um, I just poured my heart into it and created a YouTube walkthrough video to express what I went through. I still have the painting today. It has not sold, but it's been featured in multiple galleries and put on different awards and things like that. But that's the importance of our work. Sometimes it's not always about selling our work either.
Right.
It's
Right.
about getting the message out there to others because it may be a healing for them. Transitioning from 2020 and almost 5 years later, now her twin brother has been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Oh my goodness.
I'm in a different place in my creativity journey, right? It's all about building a platform to help other artists. And I truly believe that I've been placed here to help other artists overcome disabilities, invisible disabilities, challenges, and things like that through creativity and art, but also bridging the gap with business as well and being able to balance life. So art is so important. And that leads me to ask you this question. What messages do you hope to convey when you're using different colors and forms in your work? Is it all equal across the board? Do you want something created in one series, or how does that process look like for you?
Well, my artwork, I don't particularly stick to any series. I've done what I call the faceless series. and they were figures of emotional. I don't know how I would characterize it, but they were figures that had no faces, and I was trying to capture the emotion because at that period of time, our family was dealing with some pretty emotional trauma, and it was my way of expressing how I was feeling. So I called it my Faceless series. And my colors that I used in that, some of them were dark, but some of them were bright and bold. But at the same time, there was a glimmer of hope that with the brighter colors, that I wanted people to understand that there's hope even when things seem all flipped up on its head, that we have the resilience to overcome those hard times and start looking very therapeutic. It helps bring a sense of balance to my life, and being able to share it with people. Even at this point in time in my life, I paint for myself, and I paint to show and express various sides of me. My artwork is a story of who I am as a person. So there might not be like any rhyme or reason to it, but it's kind of an expression of who I am. And I hope that it inspires or helps other people that may be struggling. I do understand where you are coming from with having two children with type 1 diabetes. My middle daughter was diagnosed at the age of 12 with type 1.
Wow.
And so I understand how traumatic that is, and the journey that you go through, and then the worry and the constant worry of your children.
Yes.
You walk through life with that diagnosis, and you try not to be the
Right.
helicopter parent, but you become the helicopter parent um, because you're trying to keep your children alive.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and it's all a balancing act too. And thank you for sharing that. I knew we had a connection. I just knew from day one. I'm like, it's something about her. But yes, it's an unfortunate connection, but it's such a blessing at the same time because it could have been much worse finding
Right,
out. But God has gifted us our babies because He knew we could handle it.
right.
I
And
know. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, and I can't tell you, my daughter's 26 now. She'll be 27 at the end of this month, but she's doing wonderfully, and it there are good times and there's bad times, and there are, let me see if I can say this. It's
Yeah,
in
take your turn.
it's fascinating to watch the process and then come out on the other side and see all the stuff that you went through with them being children, and then seeing how they come out as adults on the other side of that.
Wow, thank you. Yes. Thank you for that. Absolutely. Yeah, the twins are 8 now. My son was just diagnosed last August, and my daughter, she's going on her 5 years of diagnosis. So it has been a journey, and to have to grieve it twice, you would think the second time it happens, you're just like, okay, I know what to do. I got this. But no, it's like starting all over again. And this time I was angry. The
I
diagnosis, being honest, I shut
know.
down. Yeah.
I would have been angry too. I would be like, what oh my goodness.
And I couldn't even create art. I couldn't do anything
Yeah.
at all. I just totally shut down everything. And it was a financial burden. I had to sacrifice a lot to, make that transition to become our new normal, at
Right,
home, even in my art journey. But my babies are really my inspiration. I have an older son too, but my three children are my inspiration to keep going so I can create legacies and show them that, hey, you can live normal lives and you can create art, you can play sports, you can have this, you can do this, just take care of yourself. And that's where we're at now. Even in this podcast journey, I get to record, but then I know I have to balance mommy duties over here, you know.
Right. There's a lot
Mhm.
to that, and it does become a juggling act, and it's a huge financial aspect too, because of the pumps and the medications.
Right, right.
So then you have to pivot and figure out how you're going to do your art, because it is part of your process of expressing yourself
Yes,
and
yeah,
and releasing that emotion onto the canvas. What a
exactly.
beautiful what a beautiful story. There is beauty in it.
Yes,
Um,
thank you. Yeah.
And abstract art shows you the beauty in the chaos and the messiness. There is beautiful moments in life that you get to capture on a canvas, and it's a memory that
An emerging artist, abstract artist, who's exploring their voice and submitting to exhibitions like the one with Sev Art Gallery, online exhibits, local galleries.
well, that's a great question. Practice every day with your artwork. I think that the more you do your art, the more your voice starts to shine through in your artwork, and the more it resonates with people. So so that would be for emerging artists. Always be painting, always be exploring different avenues with your art practice. And then with your entries into the galleries, I would say don't be afraid of rejection. I've had more rejection of letters than I've been exhibited. And I think that over time it gets easier with those, but have the courage to showcase your work and show the world in different buildings and galleries and venues. Say yes to every opportunity that presents itself, because with one door that opens, you have another opportunity, and it just leads you down this wonderful path of more avenues to share and express and show your artwork to more a larger audience. And I just in fact, last year and this year, I told myself and made myself a promise that I wouldn't say no to any opportunity that came up, no matter how tired I was or how overwhelmed my life felt at that moment, that I would not say no to opportunities to showcase my artwork.
That is so inspiring. And such a motivation for me to remember to take on opportunities. And thank you for sharing such a positive outlook for, those who are coming into the field of showing their art and, getting started in their journeys.
Yeah,
And
and
mhm.
I was going to add on to that. And I think there's a lot of artists that are really afraid to share their artwork, but your artwork cannot be admired or inspire other people if it's sitting in a closet.
Right, right.
Artwork is meant to be shared with the world, because not everybody has the ability to be creative with manipulating paint. People say, "Oh, I can do that," but not everybody can, and not everybody can do it in a way that is like a fingerprint of who you are as an artist. So important to share your artwork. And even if galleries are not the avenue that you want to go down, sharing or gifting or giving your artwork to others is such a I would be honored receiving artwork from anyone, because I know that their message is meant with affection when somebody shares their art with you.
It is a beautiful, beautiful gift. Now, before we wrap up, Janna, what's next for you as an artist, and where can listeners find and support your work?
I will continue submitting to the galleries. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm also looking at building my own personal website. I use a website called ArtPal. It's a place that I can sell my artwork without having a dedicated website, and it's free. Was the other part that I love about ArtPal. But with that being said, you can find and purchase my art at ArtPal /Janna Blackburn. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Janna Blackburn Art Studio, and Facebook. It also has the Janna Blackburn Art Studio.
Thank you so much. Today, that's a wrap. Thank you for sharing this inspiring conversation with me. Everyone, I hope you go check her work out. Take a look at her art pieces. She has some beautiful works on there that will leave you inspired, that will leave you moved deeply in emotion. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Creatively Enhanced podcast. It's been an absolute honor to speak with Janna, our third place winner in the Color Play Abstract Art Contest. Her story, her vision, and the emotion behind her work truly reminds us of the power art has to reflect life's beauty and its complexity. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and follow, leave a review, and share this conversation with a fellow art lover. And don't miss next week's episode. We'll be sitting down with our second place winner, the incredibly innovative Virginia Promozic. Virginia is an award-winning artist who is known for creating breathtaking abstract works using only paper, no paint involved. You won't want to miss how she turns texture, layering, and light into powerful visual storytelling. Until then, keep creating, stay inspired, and remember, you are creatively enhanced. Your art matters. Catch you next time.